Number 1.
Kathy Pereira was last seen by her loved ones on August 16, 2015. The young girl was only 15 years old at the time of her disappearance. Kathy had spent the majority of that summer in Portugal visiting her grandparents. She had recently returned to her hometown of Gaithersburg, Maryland shortly before she vanished. On the day of her disappearance, Kathy and her family members took a trip to Virginia Beach. Her family members said that their trip to the beach was enjoyable and nothing seemed unusual about Kathy that day. When they returned from the beach that evening, Kathy and her family members watched movies together before going to bed. When they awoke the following morning, Kathy was gone. She has never been seen or heard from again. After noticing that Kathy was not at home, her family members spent the day driving around looking for her. They reached out to her friends and checked her social media pages, but nobody appeared to have any information about her whereabouts. By the evening of August 17, Kathy's family contacted police to report her missing. Investigators have classified Kathy as a runaway. Despite this, her family members are unsure of why she would leave and never return. According to her mother, Kathy was discussing her future plans the evening before her disappearance. Her mother explained, "We came back from the beach and Kathy was talking about all these goals, about going to college, and what she wanted to study. She wanted to study business and get her master's in Portugal." Based on these conversations, Kathy's family members did not have any reason to believe that she was planning to run away. However, Kathy's loved ones believe that somebody out there knows what happened to her, and they are hoping that person will come forward. Certain initial reports state that Kathy might have been accompanied by a teenage boy at the time of her disappearance. Now that over 5 years have passed, it is unclear if investigators still believe this to be true. There are unfortunately very few other details available about Kathy's case, and she remains missing today.
Number 2.
The FBI is involved in the search for an Indianapolis mother who vanished hours after working at a South Side strip club. Larissa Sam has not been seen in a year and a half. Her aunt is desperate to find out what happened to her. Larissa and her son loved posting videos on Facebook. That laughter was silenced on June 21, 2015 when Larissa vanished without a trace. She had finished working as a dancer, then had drinks at her uncle's home and then disappeared. Her car was found near an abandoned home in Mars Hill. The keys were still in the ignition. Her purse, cell phone and money were still inside the vehicle. The FBI got involved in 2015 after someone posted a demand on Facebook suggesting Larissa was kidnapped and taken to another country. "We ran down all leads possible as far as the allegations we were receiving and determined it to be a fake lead, that it was an extortion attempt on the family," said Special Agent Len Rothermich. Investigators also wondered about Larissa's last message on Facebook. "I wanna text someone. Texting buddy?" The FBI says there is no evidence that someone responding to her Facebook post kidnapped her. "We've talked to many people and many different leads. But still, at this point, no resolution as far as what happened that night," said Rothermich. "That is frustrating for Larissa's family." Debbie Penn is Larissa's aunt and custodian of Larissa's son. Marcus was 4 years old when his mom disappeared. He is now 6. He knows she's missing, and he knows that police are looking for her, and people everywhere are searching for her, said Penn. It's very hard for him to process. He talks about it less and less. I think it's his way of coping with it. Counselors have suggested we keep pictures of her around, so he can see them, said Penn. We talk about her when holidays come around. We let him process it and bring it about if he wants to talk about it. Investigators have checked every lead and still no sign of Larissa. Every lead they've been given has come to a dead end. I really don't know what's happened. It's just a big hole in our hearts. I feel that we need closure," said Penn. The FBI says there is no evidence that anyone she met at the strip club had anything to do with Larissa's disappearance. The FBI has ruled out the possibility that Larissa Sam was taken in a sex trafficking operation and has also ruled many people out as potential suspects but won't identify them. "We're involving Quantico in a lot of the evidence we've since recovered as well as interviews and searches so forth going on," said Rothermich. "I hope she's still alive. I want to believe that. But after a year and a half, you start doubting," said Penn. For now, the precious bond between a young mother and her son exists only on video. If you have any tips on this case, please contact the FBI at 317-595-4000. Family are hoping someone with information about Larissa's disappearance will come forward. Marcus needs closure. "He misses his mom very much," said Penn. "He has moments when he cries. I hold him. He's in counseling right now seeking help for post-traumatic stress disorder. He's having a very rough time. He needs his mom home. Needs to know what happened to her."
Number 3.
It's been roughly 5 years since Megan Renee Foglesong was last seen in Rice County, but occasional tips still lead volunteer Ashley Duff to rural parts of south-central Kansas searching for any clues to where she might be. Foglesong, who was 21 when she went missing around Thanksgiving 2015, is Rice County's only missing persons case, according to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. Duff said tips to her volunteer search group poured in after Foglesong's disappearance and again after the 2019 death of David Madden, her former boyfriend and suspect in the disappearance. Madden ended his life after a 2019 shooting spree where he shot the undersheriff and sheriff, killed his father and then himself. Since then, they have slowed to a trickle. For Dawn Foglesong, Megan Foglesong's stepmother, knowledge of what happened to Megan died with Madden. "Honestly, I don't think he would have told where she was anyway, and the world is a better place without him," she said. "I think he did something to her." Megan was born in Liberal and moved to Illinois as a child. She graduated from a small high school in 2012 and soon after moved to Kansas to be near her biological mother, Foglesong said. Facebook photos show she was a longtime softball player who liked to pose with her nieces, nephews and siblings, usually by making extra cheesy smiles or sticking her tongue out. Megan, blonde with green eyes, also liked to bow hunt and fish. She started dating Madden shortly after moving to Kansas. Kelly Starnes, a former friend of Madden, told 911 dispatchers in a December 2014 call that Madden kidnapped Megan Foglesong while she was on Starnes' property in rural Ellenwood. Starnes said they just split up. He threatened to put her in a straitjacket and throw her in the closet. He's threatened to kill her, and he's had a gun pointed at her before, Starnes told 911. He's a loose cannon. He's ex-military. He hates the government, and he hates cops. Barton County Sheriff Brian Belender said law enforcement in neighboring Rice County, where Madden lived, found Foglesong at Madden's home. Foglesong said she was fine and hadn't been kidnapped, which ended the investigation. She spent Christmas that year in Illinois with her family. She wrote Starnes in a letter he provided to the Eagle, "Thank you again, and I'm so sorry too. Never again." A few months later she returned to Kansas and she and Madden rekindled their relationship. Dawn Foglesong said she continued to advise her stepdaughter to stay away from Madden until she stopped responding altogether. Foglesong started to suspect the worst when her stepdaughter didn't call home during the holidays. Days after Megan Foglesong's birthday, one of her friends told Dawn Foglesong that her ex murked her out, slang she learned stood for murder. Starnes also grew concerned especially after Madden told him, "No one will ever have to worry about her again." Law enforcement later told the media that foul play may be involved in Megan Foglesong's disappearance. The KBI said Madden remains a suspect in the case. Madden was wanted on a state and federal warrant the day he went on a shooting spree following a traffic stop. He was wanted on a federal warrant after officers found 24 metal pipe bombs and an AK-47 machine gun at his home in Alden, according to federal documents. State documents show Madden also had a warrant for failing a drug test for methamphetamine. The property at Madden's childhood home, where the shooting spree ended after he shot the sheriff and killed his father and himself, has been repeatedly searched for Foglesong, especially an area where Madden had buried his dog, Rommel, along the Arkansas River. Rommel's grave has been dug up at least twice. Dawn Foglesong said she dug up Rommel's grave around summer 2016. She had the permission of Madden's father, Thomas Madden, who was alive at the time. "We were a little freaked out knowing David could be out there running around," she said. The KBI dug up the grave again in October 2019, according to Madden's sister, Julie Boakman. "We are willing to cooperate with the KBI and Megan's family in any way possible," Boakman said in an email. "I have been in contact with Dawn, Megan's stepmom, and told her she is always welcome to contact us and we would help them search the area anytime." The interest in Rommel's grave is driven by some of the theories about Foglesong's disappearance. One theory is that Madden killed Foglesong and fed her to the dog and then killed and buried the dog. KBI spokesperson Melissa Underwood, citing Foglesong's ongoing investigation, would not comment about Rommel being dug up. Boakman said there were about 5 or 6 officers at the family's property digging up the grave. The KBI also used tools to check the nearby sand and see if the ground had been disturbed elsewhere, she said. Rommel isn't the only thing that Madden reportedly buried near the river on the family farm. He allegedly buried guns along the river that were taken from the U.S. Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, where Madden was stationed while he was a Marine. A 2002 story about the stolen guns appeared in the Lyons Daily News titled "NC Firearms Recovered." The story says the Rice County Sheriff's Office was notified by the Criminal Investigation Division at Camp Lejeune and that weapons stolen from the camp were believed to be buried in the county. Former Sheriff Steve Bundy told the Eagle the guns were recovered along the Arkansas River, near the family's property. They were buried in the sand. The suspect traveled to Kansas to locate the weapons, the article stated. Sheriff Bundy said an AR-15 rifle, a 9mm handgun, a 12-gauge shotgun, and accessories were uncovered Saturday along the Arkansas River, south of Raymond. Despite the history of burials along the river, Duft, the volunteer searcher, doesn't believe Foglesong is anywhere on the family farm. "Just from my research, I just don't believe Madden put her there on his dad's property," Duft said. Duft, a Sterling business owner, first started volunteering in searches for missing people during the 2018 search for 5-year-old Lucas Hernandez. The boy's stepmother eventually led a private investigator to the Lucas's body, which was hidden under a rural bridge. Afterward, Duft founded Missing in Kansas Megan's Voice, an organization that volunteers to help find missing people. Over the years of searching for Foglesong, Duft and Dawn Foglesong have grown close and communicate regularly. Duft said she follows up on the few tips a month about Foglesong's whereabouts. Most of the tips come through the Bring Megan Home Facebook page. "Everyone deserves to come home, to be home," Duft said. "If we can at least bring some of the missing home, just to give the family some of that closure, that is better than nothing at all." That's what Dawn Foglesong hopes for as well. "I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble because I'm convinced it was Madden," Foglesong said. I just want to find her, that way you're not spending the rest of your life trying. At least you will know where she is at, what happened to her."
Number 4.
Back in September 2020, the loved ones of Shara Jones marked the 5th anniversary since she went missing. The 20-year-old was living in Claremore, Oklahoma, when she left her home that she shared with her mother on September 21. It's reported that Shara was upset at the time, but it hasn't been stated what caused her to be out of sorts. A news report shared that Shara made 2 transactions at a local come-and-go market after leaving her home, but that's where all activity stops. Her bank records show her account hasn't been accessed in years. 2 weeks after she was last seen, her mother reported her missing, and she's never been seen or heard from again. Shara Jones was reportedly diagnosed with bipolar disorder that required medication, but it's said that her family believed the medication wasn't working well just prior to her going missing. The day she disappeared, Shara left without her phone or her vehicle. It's unclear if she met up with someone or had a destination in mind. There haven't been reports detailing her personal relationships, but she was said to have worked at a pharmacy when she disappeared. It has also been stated that Shara made it a habit of leaving her home in the evenings only to resurface hours later. The following day, Jones was supposed to pick up medication but never did, her mother Mary Vaux said, reported the Claremore Daily Press. The Wednesday after she left, Jones failed to show up for work at a pharmacy in town. Shara's mother reportedly also said it took weeks for her to officially report her daughter missing because she was sure that Shara would return home at any time. She even left the door unlocked for when her daughter reappeared. Unfortunately, that never occurred. Back in 2016, on the 1-year anniversary of Shara's disappearance, Claremore Police Department investigator John Singer told reporters, "This is still an active investigation, but, unfortunately, we have been unable to develop any new, promising leads in several months. We continue to ask for the public's help in developing new information." At the time of her disappearance, Shara Jones stood 5 feet 3 inches to 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighed 120 to 140 pounds. She had black dark brown hair, brown eyes, and a visible lump deformity on her right thumb. Shara was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She was last seen wearing a pink-purple shirt, baggy black shorts, black and white knee-high socks, black and white high-top Nike shoes, and a black leather purse that was shaped like a backpack. Shara is described as biracial, black and Vietnamese. She went by the nickname Pshara, and her middle name is Marie. Anyone with information about this case is urged to contact the Claremore Police Department at 918-341-1212 or their local authorities. Her agency case number is 15-013162.
Number 5.
Bianca Carrasco was 29 when she was last seen in San Antonio on May 1, 2016. It's been almost a year since Giovanna Burney last saw her sister's face, a year since she heard her voice on the other end of the phone. And according to Bianca's family, she was doing her best to laugh through a lot of tears not long before she went missing. She was reportedly in an unhappy relationship with her husband. Bianca and her husband Joe Daniel were married for almost 10 years, and they were struggling in their marriage, said CBS 7 reporter Alexa Dunson, who covered the story. She was kind of done with the relationship, from my understanding. Bianca was only 18 when she married Joe Daniel Carrasco, 11 years her senior. And even though they would go on to have 3 children together, Bianca's sister, Giovanna Burney, says it was never a very perfect union. Bianca was 18, and actually Joe Daniel was her uncle, said reporter Alexa Dunson. Daniel was married to my sister Brenda, said Barbara Talamantes, Bianca's mother. They have an 18-year-old daughter. Daniel and Brenda were going through a divorce and kind of to get back at her, he started wooing Bianca. Bianca gets pregnant, they get married, and I think, just to out of malice, just to get back at my sister. Barbara says that Joe Daniel had become something of a family wedge. Daniel very much manipulated trying to keep Bianca away from all the family, he tried to keep her away completely, said Barbara. The last time I saw Bianca was probably 5 years ago. Bianca and I were not on speaking terms when she went missing. I blame Daniel for that. But family also say that as Bianca and her children got older, she started becoming more independent. She had just graduated in October as an RN, said Sister Giovanna. I was so proud of her, to see her in October walk across that stage, she was proud of herself. And good for her, and I was proud of her. Mother Barbara also says that around the same time as that graduation, school wasn't the only thing Bianca was ready to leave behind. Bianca had asked Daniel for a divorce. If you look on her Facebook, she had already listed herself as divorced, said Barbara. She was already, I guess, beginning to live as if she was single. Bianca was talking to other men, one man in particular, said reporter Alexa Dunson. I think she was communicating, like, on her phone and social media outlets, said Giovanna. I think maybe she's met with one of them once or twice. But it was nothing serious. I had a conversation with her about it, and I just kind of told her like, you know, y'all have been married for a long time, it probably feels good to have the attention from him, and she was honest, and said that yes it was. And I just told her, like, you know, don't let it consume your life, you know, because you don't know what kind of trouble this can cause. How long it had been going on, no one could say. But eventually Joe Daniel found out. And according to Giovanna Burney, Bianca's sister, that was just a few days before she disappeared. The Wednesday before she went missing, she was scared, he was angry. He had just found out about her communications on her phone, who she was talking to, other males, and she was scared, said Giovanna. Bianca Carrasco is missing, and the family of the mother of 3 fears the worst. Bianca Carrasco was 18 when she married her former uncle, Joe Daniel Carrasco. She was 29 when she said she was through, started seeing someone else, and according to family, Joe Daniel found out. Of course he gets in her phone, and he sees that there was a specific one that she talked to, said Barbara Talamantes, Bianca's mother. That was a Wednesday. After that, Joe Daniel Carrasco took drastic action. According to a text reportedly sent from Bianca to her sister Giovanna the Treeds, Daniel emptied the account and opened another account without my name on it, so I have no access to money except my credit card, which is almost at the limit. Bianca continued, I will not be controlled by a man and money. 4 days after that, on Sunday, May 1, 2106, Giovanna Burney spoke to her sister for the last time. She talked about going to see a lawyer. We talked a little about the kids, what was going to happen with them, and she wasn't too sure because he wanted the kids and they were kind of arguing about that, said Giovanna. The positive is that I did get to tell her that I love her. What happened after that is now part of official police record. Bianca Carrasco was last seen on May 1, which was a Sunday night, said CBS 7 reporter Alexa Dunson. What we know is that her and her husband, Joe Daniel, got into an argument over her speaking to another man, over her possibly wanting to leave him. She walks out the door and goes down the street. Joe Daniel picks up their youngest child, puts her in the car, drives past her, leaves the other 2 children in the house. And then, Bianca was gone. It wasn't until late the next day that Giovanna found out. Monday about 4 o'clock was when he let me know that they had gotten into an argument and that she walked away from their house, said Giovanna. And I said, where are the kids? And he said, the kids, they're at home. They were left alone. Giovanna is suspicious. So she just kept walking and left the kids? That doesn't make any sense. I called her phone. Well, her phone was off, totally out of character. She's never turned her phone off, said Giovanna. There is something seriously wrong. Then, after discovering that Bianca never showed up for work, Giovanna texted Joe Daniel, "Can you call your aunt and ask her if she's talked to Bianca?" Joe Daniel responds, "No sister, just let her be for a little bit." Giovanna, "She still doesn't have her car?" Joe Daniel, "No, probably using that guy's. He said she probably left with one of those guys, and my reaction to that was leaving her kids with no car. That's not my sister. At night, it's not her at all," said Giovanna. Giovanna took action, texting Joe Daniel on the other line. "I called the police." Joe Daniel responds, "Call me when you're done." Instead, Giovanna meets with police officers to tell them what she knows. Something that just sticks out in my head is that one of the police officers, he asked me why hasn't the husband called, and I said I don't know, and he said, "Well, give me his number, I'll call him," said Giovanna. "And he calls him right in front of me, and he lies and says he has the wrong number." After that, Joe Daniel reportedly called police himself and finally made a report. "So then I believe it was that night they finally listed her as a missing person," said Giovanna Burney. Then police bring the husband in for questioning. "In these cases, one of the first things we look at the immediate loved one or the relative of the missing person," said San Antonio police officer Doug Green. "Mr. Carrasco has been cooperative with our investigators. It's our understanding that he thought that Ms. Carrasco was going to return home, so he didn't raise really any concerns and felt the need that he needed to make a report." Joe Daniel told police about Bianca's alleged affair, and officers follow up by questioning the man. But no suspects were announced, and no clues to Bianca's whereabouts have been made public. In fact, no evidence of any crime at all. "Some people, they go missing, they're adults, they just don't want to be contacted," said Officer Green. "At this point we haven't had anything to show concretely that there was foul play involved," said Green. "But after nearly a year of searching, police say they have assigned a homicide unit to the case." Crime Watch Daily Odessa, Texas affiliate CBS 7 tried hard to get a response from Joe Daniel Carrasco. "Of course I wanted to hear his side of the story, reached out to him several times," said reporter Alexa Dunson. "The first time I called him, he said it was in fact Joe Daniel. Every time I told him who I was with or what I was trying to do, he hung up on me. And then the last few times I called him, he told me I had the wrong phone number." Dunson was able to get an interview with Joe Daniel Carrasco's attorney, who denied any involvement in Bianca's disappearance. He has been active in the case. He has attempted to work with DFPS Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, and the focus for him and for all of us working the case is to protect his kids. "That's our concern right now," said Joseph Holscher, Joe Daniel Carrasco's attorney. Crime Watch Daily wanted to give Joe Daniel Carrasco his say. Dunson said Joe Daniel was living in Odessa with the couple's 3 kids. After first trying to reach him by phone, Crime Watch Daily found an address. Someone who answered the door said Joe Daniel was at work and that Crime Watch Daily could come back when he was there. When CWD returned, we were told to stay away. Days later, we flew back to West Texas, where that night we found Joe Daniel sitting in his car. He refused to comment. Joe Daniel Carrasco's attorney, Joseph Holscher, gave us the following statement: "The Carrasco family is deeply grateful for the kind thoughts and prayers of so many people as they continue trying to adjust to their new lives. Joe and the children remain hopeful for Bianca's safe return. For now, the case remains open in every sense of the word. We're not ruling anything out in this case," said Officer Green. "There could be some foul play involved. It's our hope that we can get some more information, hopefully from the public or from anybody else, that knows anything about this case or Ms. Carrasco's whereabouts to help us find out where she is, because we know that the family is grieving. And to that, there is no dispute. Just let her pick up the phone and tell me she's okay," said Bianca's sister Giovanna Berni. "I miss her really bad, really bad, and I feel like I've lost a piece of me, like a piece of me is gone, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get through life without her."
Number 6.
This is a very recent case, and there is very little information to go on. The information that is out there is a bit vague, and I was unable to find the specific date that Brandi went missing. Given all that, I thought I'd cover her case as the circumstances seem a bit off, and as usual, the coverage for her is sorely lacking. Brandi Shontay Brown went missing from Detroit, Michigan sometime in September 2016. NamUs has her last seen date as August 1, 2016, but that seems to be an error. She is also listed as being 23 at the time of her disappearance on NamUs, but other sites have her as being 24 when she went missing. Brandi is an African American woman and is 5'4", and 120 pounds. She is the mother to a 4-year-old daughter, and she has a large tattoo of her daughter's name Alicia on the back of her right shoulder. Brandi disappeared sometime after being released from Sinai Grace Hospital after she was treated and discharged for injuries she received in a car accident. I was unable to find the exact discharge date or the extent of her injuries. Brandi was last seen at 7 Mile Road and Forer Street, which is on the west side of Detroit and appears to be about 2 miles from the hospital. Once again, I couldn't find any details about who saw her or how she left the hospital. Did she walk, call a cab, or was she picked up by someone? At the time Brandi disappeared, she was living in the 18,000 block of Schaefer, Hawaii. Her grandmother still drives by the house and follows leads herself, often driving from place to place. Brandi's family says it's unlike her to not contact her family, especially her 4-year-old daughter. Brandi never called Alicia on her birthday, which her grandmother says is definitely uncharacteristic of her. One other interesting thing to note is that Fox News went to Brandi's neighborhood and showed a man who has lived in the neighborhood for years Brandi's picture. He said her face doesn't look at all familiar. I'm not saying that's odd by any means, just that it was mentioned, so I noted it here. So what happened to Brandi? Did she possibly suffer an unnoticed head injury from the accident that led to her going missing? Was she a victim of circumstance? Did she leave of her own accord? It's hard for me to form a theory when the details of her disappearance are so vague. I wish I knew the time frame between when she was discharged from the hospital and when she was last seen. Was it hours, days, or more? I truly hope Brandi is found so her family can get some kind of answers. At the very least, her daughter will one day need to know what happened to her mother. Crime Stoppers of Michigan is offering a $2,500 reward, so hopefully someone will come forward.
Number 7.
32-year-old Brenda Maria Jackson has been missing since January 3, 2016. Brenda was an Iraq War veteran and worked in a local high school cafeteria in Park Forest, Illinois at the time of her disappearance. On the evening she was last seen, Brenda's father dropped her off at her home around 9 p.m. About an hour later, Brenda spoke on the phone with her mother and mentioned that she was home alone at the time. She was scheduled to arrive at work around 5:30 a.m. the following morning, but she never showed up. After numerous failed attempts to contact her, Brenda's family members reported her missing on January 5, 2016. Many of Brenda's personal items were found inside her home, including her purse, coat, and identification. Brenda left behind 6 children, the youngest of whom was only 4 months old at the time of her disappearance. She also left all her belongings behind, including her purse, coat, gloves, and identification. There has been no activity on her credit cards or phone since she was last seen. Brenda's family and friends also searched in the freezing cold and snow for clues at the nearby Cook County Forest Preserve, but the search turned up empty. The Department of Children and Family Services took guardianship of Brenda's children following a domestic violence report involving Brenda's husband Antonio Jackson. 5 of the children were placed into Brenda's parents' custody, while a 6th child went to live with her father, Brenda's first husband, in Texas. The agency says the grandparents have since violated a safety plan that keeps the kids away from their father and granted Brenda supervised visits. 3 weeks after Brenda's disappearance, the agency removed the children from the grandparents' care and placed the children into a new foster home location. The grandparents insist they will fight the placement in foster care and that they only allowed Antonio to visit the children since they believed he had something to do with Brenda's disappearance, and they thought by keeping him close they would get clues to what he did with her. Brenda's mother, Maria Gonzalez, also stated that Brenda filed for divorce from Antonio before she vanished. Park Forest Police Detective Sergeant Darren Studer says, even though there were allegations of domestic violence against Antonio, they aren't ready to call him a suspect in Brenda's disappearance, stating, "I mean, everybody to me would be a suspect at this point. But obviously he was one of the last people who had seen her, and he lived with her, so, yeah." Per Detective Suter, Antonio has not been cooperating with the police. Brenda remains missing to this day. Brenda is described as Hispanic, about 5 feet tall and 125 pounds. She has a scar on her upper chest and star tattoos on both sides of her neck. She also has a heart tattooed on her ring finger and a tattoo that says Michael on her left inner wrist. Anyone with information is asked to call the Park Forest Police Department Investigations Unit at 708-748-1309.